Someone left a comment recently saying it's been a while since you've done any kind of top 10 here on the channel, and they're absolutely correct. But I'm going to hold off before doing an updated top 10 because I think we may see some more new cars before the end of the year. But what I do want to do is talk about some of the best RC cars you can get depending on your budget. Now, people have different budgets getting into the RC hobby. Some people want to spend $50 or £50. Some people are happy to spend $600 plus, all the way up to £1,000 or $1,000. People have different budgets. And I just thought it'd be a good idea to kind of take a look at some of the best options out there. Now, this video is going to be based on my personal opinion. I do not expect everyone to agree, but these are just some of the cars that I've experienced in the 5.5 years that I've been doing this channel. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of put it into one video. So let's make a start then. Now, I've got the webcam on. You're going to be seeing me in person today. Now, let's talk about what would be some good options if you've got $50 to $100 to spend. Now, the one thing I want to clear up is you're probably going to wonder why I'm talking about dollars. Why am I mentioning all the prices in dollars? Now, I'm not the only creator who does this. It's been mentioned loads of times before. Our biggest market is the US. So for us, when we're advertising products, when we're talking about stuff, leaving links to products, everything is in dollars because we have to appeal to our biggest market. And that is, of course, the US. Now, if that bothers you, it's very simple just to go online. You can almost always change the currency at the top of the page somewhere. You can change it to pounds or euros or whatever it is you use. But for this video, we're going to be using dollars because that seems to be the most common, the common form of currency that people are using who are watching my videos. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the $50 to $100 range. What would be some cool options to go for if you had $50 to $100 to spend? Now, I think one of the best options, or one of the options I would consider, would be the LDRC Skyline, the R34. That thing is incredibly cool for the money. I really like the die-cast body on it as well. Performs really well, looks cool, and there's just something about the R34 that I absolutely love. It's an iconic car. Of course, you've got the whole Fast and Furious side of things attached to it as well, which loads of people love. But for the money, very solid little option, really cool drift car, something that you can play with at home, you know, on your worktop, in your kitchen, wherever it may be. You can have some fun with that car. And of course, it's priced in that kind of price range where you may not want to spend too much, but you want to experience the hobby for the first time, or you just want to have some fun with it. I think that LDRC Skyline is going to be a really cool little option. Now, an alternative would be the little Jai Bailey, can't remember how you pronounce it. I know Stephen at RC Expats Hong Kong actually did tell us how to pronounce it properly, but I can't remember. But anyway, we're going to call it the Jai Bailey.
Jia Bai Le. Jia Bai Le.
The 1/36 scale mini monster truck. Incredibly cool little truck. Not really a basher type truck. It's actually quite slow. If anything, it's kind of like a mini crawler, but really cool for the money. I had a lot of fun with it in my back garden. You can make up some little ramps with it. You can just have some fun with it. Nothing too serious. And of course, it does fall into that $50 to $100 price range. Now, what's crazy is, you know, many years ago when I first started my channel, you could pick up something from WL Toys, like the 144001. You could pick that up for around £60, I think, which was around, you know, $100 mark. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. The prices of everything has shot up. Everything's gone through the roof, so you can't quite get too much for your money these days in the $50 to $100 sort of bracket. You'd have to move up to the next one, the next bracket, which is going to be the $100 to $200, which we're going to move on to next. So, what options do we have in the $100 to $200 price range? Now, I think one of the best ones, one of the most solid ones, which has been around for years, tried and tested as one of the best little mini RC cars out there, the Hiboxing 16889. Now, you've got the brushed version, you've got the brushless version, and then you've got the pro brushless version, which has the upgrades on it. The brushed one has the friction shocks. The brushless one also has the friction shocks. From what I can remember, it's been a while since I've done anything with that. And then, of course, the pro brushless one, if you can stretch to that, that has all the different bits on it. It's all the truck you'll ever need to get you going. Get a couple of extra batteries, you're going to be good to go. Ultra durable, Parts availability is good as well because loads of other brands have rebranded that truck and you can get bits from everywhere. Another solid option I think would be the MJX Hyper-Go range. Now there are many different cars in the Hyper-Go range that are worth checking out. The buggy's really cool. The Truggy's probably my favourite. I think that's one of the most popular ones, the MJX Hyper-Go Truggy. Some people have complained saying they don't handle very well, but actually I think they handle pretty well. Good performance out the box on 2S and 3S. Everything you need to get you up and running is of course also included in the box. You don't really have to look any further. Everything you need is in the box to get you going. And then of course you've also got the MJX rally cars, which are also a really solid option if you're not really interested in going off-road and you just want to do some on-road stuff, maybe on some flat dirt areas, on your driveway, backyard, that kind of thing. The MJX rally cars are also a really good shout. They've got the Citroen one, which is really cool. Then they've got my favourite one, which is the VW Polo. Again, a very cool little car. Great for beginners. Again, everything in the box to get you going. I don't think there's many better options out there in the $100 to $200 price range. I don't think you can go wrong with the Hyper-Go stuff or the high boxing stuff. Very solid options. Moving on then. So we're going to try to speed through this as much as possible because I don't want it going on too long. I tend to do this less formal stuff on my second channel now, but I just thought it'd be a good idea to give it a go on the main channel as well. Moving on, $300 to $400. No, I'm skipping ahead. $200 to $300 price range. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. Now, this is kind of getting into the territory where do you go for a well-known brand at the lower end, or do you go for a Chinese brand which is going to give you more performance? And we've seen this, we see this with stuff like Traxxas. When you look at their base models like the Bandit XL5, they posted a video of that a couple of days back actually, and I left a comment on their video saying, Traxxas, you're charging $200 plus for a RC car that comes with a nickel metal hydride battery. I just think that's crazy when you look at what some of the cheaper Chinese brands are offering, like Rolalo and MJX. You can get way more performance out of the box for the same money with a 3S LiPo in the box as well. I think Traxxas and Armour and all the other big brands out there need to start giving us more affordable options and with more performance as well, because people are starting to look at the cheaper brands, the more affordable brands. I say cheaper brands, but they're not really that cheap anymore. I think what you're getting is more for the money compared to some of the bigger brands. I think that's fair to say. But let's take a look anyway. $200 to $300. What can you get for your money? Well, of course, you can get some of the lower end big branded stuff, or you can look at some of the Chinese stuff, which is kind of what I would do, I think. And I think a good option I would say would be the Omni Terminator. You should be able to get the metal version for around this kind of price. I think $200 to $300. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but I'll stick the current price on the screen. Omni Terminator, those of you that know, you know how good it is. It's worth every penny or every cent. It's an incredible monster truck. Yes, it may not be 1/10 scale. It's kind of like a 1/12 scale or a mini 1/10 scale as they like to call it. But it's incredibly versatile, looks incredibly cool. Parts and upgrades are available. Handles extremely well. There isn't really a lot more out there that's going to give you the level of performance the Omni Terminator is going to give you, especially when you compare it to the bigger brands. Would I rather have an XL5 Bandit or a Omni Terminator? Omni Terminator all day long. Way more RC truck for the money. And again, parts isn't really an issue anymore. That used to be the biggest argument. People used to say, don't get anything from the Chinese brands. You won't be able to get parts. Well, believe it or not, things are getting a lot better now. You can get local parts support here in the UK, for example, through places like Serious RC. Serious RC, Mike at Serious RC will stock all the spares and upgrades for the Rolalo stuff. He's also got the MJX stuff. So you can't really argue the parts thing anymore because parts are becoming easier to get. Another good option, it's definitely worth mentioning, the Armour Gorgon. The Armour is an incredible truck once again, 2-wheel drive, brushed out the box, really good beginner package. My only criticism with the Armour Gorgon is parts for us here in the UK can be quite expensive. The bodies are still quite expensive. from memory, the slipper clutches are still quite, I think the slipper clutch setup is quite expensive. Just everything on it, considering it's a beginner platform, everything on it is quite expensive. Let's move on to the $300 to $400 mark. Now, obviously the price is starting to go up quite a little bit now. For most people, or for some people, this might be too much money. For a lot of people, you know, the RC hobby is an expensive hobby. There's no denying that. If you start getting into this, you know, the sort of 10th scale, 8th scale and above, things are going to start to get really expensive. You need better batteries, you know, better charger. Everything starts to escalate in price. So hitting the $300 to $400 mark, the options that I would say would be good would be the Omni Terminator, the carbon brushless version, so not the metal version that I spoke about previously, but the carbon version, which is quicker. Obviously it's got more carbon bits on it. I think it actually looks a little bit nicer as well, because it's kind of got that stealth black look to it. Kind of looking something a bit larger, maybe the MJX 10208, which is 1/10 scale, 4S ready out the box. Not the best truck out there, if I'm completely honest with that one. You know, I think it was a great idea. For the first time, we were seeing a 10th scale truck from MJX. The version 1, not very good. The version 2 was released, which did address some of the issues, but the body, you know, the sliding mechanism on the body still wasn't perfect. A lot of people have been reporting back saying that the bodies like to fly off. They're hard to work on. Yeah, not really the best, but it's still an option in this price range. The one I would say is another solid option in this price range would be the Team Associated Rival MT10. Quite a few years old now, but still a solid option if you can get one. I remember when they were a lot cheaper than they currently are. I believe we're on the version 2 now, so they've made some changes to the body and maybe a couple other things. But I've got the original version, which is my favourite one, in all honesty. Any other options in this price range? Probably. If you can think of any other options in the $300 to $400 price range, feel free to drop a comment down below. We're all in this together, so we need to help each other out. And if you can think of any other options that I've missed in all the different price ranges that I'm talking about today, then of course, you know, list them down below. It's good to help each other out, especially for beginners watching this video. They can kind of take a look at it and try to work out what would be the best option to go for their money, because I'm all for people getting the most for their money. Moving up then, let's have a look at the $400 to $500 range. So we're starting to get a little bit more expensive now. Now, of course, whether I like it or not, I do need to mention the Armour 223S lineup, the Vortex, the Big Rock, the Granite. Now, I've tested the Granite, had ESC issues, was cutting out on me on the speed test. Full throttle. So many people are facing ESC issues with these at the moment. Oh dear. I think it's fair to say the same thing has happened to me again with this one. What is going on? I've tested the Vortex, again had ESC issues, was cutting out on the speed test. Oh. What? What's happened? Never bothered with the Big Rock because I kind of thought, well, look, I'm not having much luck. What's the point? But they do fall into this price range, so it's worth mentioning. Some people have had issues with them. I've had issues with them. But then there's a massive amount of people that haven't had any issues with the Armour 223S cars. Definitely worth checking out. Or alternatively, have a look and see if you can get one of the old 3S BLX trucks, because never had any issues with the electronics on those. If it's not broke, why fix it? That's my attitude. But anyway, Armour are going off into a weird direction at the moment and doing their own thing without listening to reviews and what people are saying. Another solid option in this price range, I would say, would be the Team Corrali Synchro 4. Now, that's a very nice, solid buggy, which doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. You know, I think that's a very solid little buggy for people getting into the hobby. You know, run 3S on it, you're going to have fun. Run 4S on it, you're going to have fun. Very solid option. So let's move up to the big money territory now. Let's have a look at the $500 to $600 range. Now, my first choice would be the Hebao Hyper SSTE, or Hebao Hyper SSTE, my favourite truck ever, my favourite truck here on the channel. The thing is an absolute beast. Now you can buy the ready to run, it does fall into this kind of price range. I would say, if possible, or if you have got electronics hanging around, go for the rolling chassis, put your own electronics in it. There's nothing wrong with the ready to run electronics. It's all Hobbywing stuff, which is really good. As we know, Hobbywing are tried and tested. What else do we have in this price range? I would say the Team Corrali 6S Kagama, or any of the other Team Corrali 6S cars. We've got the Arma Mojave 4S, or the other trucks in the 4S range. And then, of course, if you want something a little bit different, we've got the MJX 1/7 scale rally car, the Citroen rally car. Really good fun. Not the fastest thing out there, but it handles really well on the dirt. Huge amount of fun. Absolutely love that thing. Yeah, I think all solid choices there. SSTE would be the one I would go for. Ready to run form, absolutely fine. You'll want to change your wheels and tyres, you'll want to change your pinion gear, but what you'll have in that price range is one of the most solid trucks around. Durable, you know, you can depend on it, it's not going to let you down. Looks great, just a brilliant truck. You know, loads of people know how much I will praise the SSTE, and it deserves all the praise it gets because it's just a brilliant, versatile truggy, and I would have it over any of the other cars I've just mentioned. So let's move on then to the final price range. Now obviously there's a lot of different RC cars you could go for in these price ranges. These are just some of the ones I would go for if it was my money. They're the ones I've experienced, they're the ones that I like, and looking at all things considered, you know, I think these are some of the best choices. But again, you may disagree, and if you do, just tell me what you would pick. You know, instead of the ones I've gone for, what would you pick in this price range? Because again, like I say, if there's beginners looking at the comments, if there's people watching this thinking, I'm looking for a new RC car, what should I go for? What's the best thing to buy? Well, we can help them, and we can say, look, these are some of the best options. Because, you know, you used to be able to do that at a local hobby shop. You could go into a hobby store and you could say, I've got $600 to spend or £600 to spend. What can I get for my money? But of course, especially for us here in the UK, shops are closing down like crazy. You can't always do that, so you end up buying online, you're buying blind sometimes. So if we can kind of get together and, you know, a bit of a group effort, a community effort, put down the best options, what people should be looking at in these price ranges, I think it can only be of benefit to people. So let's move on to the final category then. Now this is obviously the expensive category, the $600 to $1,000 range. What can you get for your money? Well, of course, you can get any of the Arma 6S lineup. My favourite is the Typhon version 5. I've had that thing for years. It's never let me down. It's super durable, really quick, fantastic to look at. But you can get any of the Arma 6S lineup, the Kraton, Outcast, all the other ones. And then, of course, you've got the 8S lineup as well. Again, any of the 8S lineup. And then, of course, you know, the X-Max from Traxxas. You know, things are starting to get quite expensive now because it's not only the trucks that you need to purchase, but you also need to buy the batteries. If you go for one of the 8S ones, you're looking at a couple of 4S packs, which you want decent quality ones as well, which can get quite expensive. So even though I've put on there $600 to $1,000, realistically, you're probably looking closer to $1,500, something along those lines, which is very, very expensive for most people. And I know a lot of you guys who watch my channel favour the sort of $50 up to the $300, maybe $400 at a push kind of range. And when I feature those kind of price cars on my channel, they always seem to be quite popular. Whenever I go that little bit further and start mentioning the more expensive stuff, I know for a lot of people it's without, you know, it's out of reach, and I totally appreciate that. Not everyone has that level of money to spend on the hobby. And the truth is, you don't have to spend that level of money to have fun in the hobby. You know, you can have an Omni Terminator and you can have endless amounts of fun with it. Absolutely. So there we go then. I hope that's kind of given you some good options. When it comes to looking at a new RC car, depending on budget, these are just the ones that I would look at. You don't have to agree with me. And if there's better options out there, again, let me know in the comment section down below. I think if you're a beginner just starting out, or if you're just looking for a really cool RC car, I think one of the best options on the list there, and one of the more affordable ones, would be the Relalo Omni Terminator. Now that can be the metal version or the carbon version, both equally as good. Obviously the carbon version is slightly better, but it is more expensive. Now I'm also giving you a chance to win one over on raffle, so head over there and check that out after watching this video if you're interested. If you use code 10free, you will be able to get 10 free tickets as well. You only have to buy one, but that is going to be limited to the first 20 entrants. So if you want to take part in that raffle and you want to support the channel, which I really appreciate by the way, then of course I will leave a link down below to that. So we're pretty much going to leave it there today. If you want to check out my second channel where I've been doing behind the scenes stuff, and I've got the podcast going on over there as well. I've done 11 episodes of that. It's also on Spotify. Check that out over there. I've got some big names coming onto the podcast in the next couple of weeks. You'll definitely recognise who they are. They're very well known RC YouTubers. Some of your favourites, let's just put it that way. They're going to be jumping on and doing a little bit of a chat with me. We're going to be talking about some topics, maybe some controversial stuff as well. So head over to the second channel, subscribe, show your support, and be on the lookout for those podcast episodes with some very, very famous faces. Cheers guys, cheers for watching. See you soon.